See, I've deciphered it. I have read Rosetta Stone. He's a waiter. He's actually a waiter. He talks about how he's in the kitchen preaching. That's what the waiter does. He goes to the kitchen and he yells at the cooks that he needs whatever dish, right? He yells the customers' orders in the kitchen. He's preaching in the kitchen.
Oh, he could be at work.
He's a waiter. He's a waiter.
I was thinking
he's getting that money, so he's getting the tips.
Yeah, that makes sense. I thought he was like a stay-at-home preacher who got paid through the internet, like on Patreon or something.
Yeah, no, and he's telling the customers, bitch, don't file a complaint. And then there was another part of it as yeah, he doesn't want the customer to file a complaint to his manager because he's trying to get that money, trying to get the tips, and he's preaching in the kitchen, what the customer's orders are. And I assume the middle segment of the song, that is completely incomprehensible, is him reading the menu, which is why the customers are complaining to his manager.
Wait, is it him reading the menu, or is that part of the sermon?
It's that middle part where he just goes, I don't know why.
Well, that kind of sounds like a Buddhist chant. Could be some of the tie-in with the preacher bit.
Or it could be fusion cuisine.
It's a definite possibility.
All of this could be solved if you gave waiters a decent wage.
I knew it was political. I just couldn't figure out how. I just thought he was at home being paid to preach in his kitchen, fucking pre-op trannies. Homeowners Association is on his ass because they keep getting complaints filed about him detonating explosives in his backyard.
First of all, he doesn't own a home, let's face it.
Well, you think $15 is a livable wage? You can't own a home on $15 an hour.
What are you, a crypto fascist? Of course not. See, he just said, yeah, you know what it is. I smell like a motherfucker something. But I need to...
That's just the smell of the food in the kitchen.
Could be that the HOA doesn't like the fact that he has like a half dozen roommates just because he can't afford otherwise. It's the rich upper class white HOA.
And we actually can't understand half the song because it's just his roommates talking over it, and we don't realize.
Well, what if
they all sound the same to us? So
what if we don't understand because it's just noise of his mind trying to adapt to like brutal wage slavery? He's just having all these crazy thoughts that don't mean anything, just wasting energy. He just comes home and he just burns, like screaming at a wall or something. It symbolizes stress, because bitches keep filing complaints.
Yeah, so maybe the first segment is about his waiter job, and the second is about coming home and having to deal with complaints at home as well.
What if bitches are complaining at his home too? What if he lives with his parents and his mom bitches at him? She files a complaint.
Where he talks about how he's serving it to your mom. So I think that just relates to being a waiter.
It sounds like there could be some religious persecution aspects to this too.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's what the Beats in the background, the microwave over car commercial was about. It's denouncing materialism and the denial uh, of religious living. And the album is called Haunted Tracks, Haunted Tapes, which is a picture of the catacombs, it seems. The graffiti on the catacombs.
He's spraying graffiti on the catacombs of Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's he's. I think he wants to die, but he's just like he's vandalizing death itself.
Well, actually, if you look at the next track on the album, it's called Deep Inside We Want to Die. I don't think this is a coincidence.
He wants to die, but he vandalizes death itself. It's like I want to die, but I won't. And I
Hmm.
really hate that bitch, don't file a is starting to get stuck in my head.
Don't file a complaint when preaching in the kitchen, serving your mother, something like that.
And in deep inside, we want to die. It's a choir, like at a church.
So it's like it's like, it's episodic. So there's a song about his job and a song about his faith.
I actually like this track. I'm just waiting for him to start rapping over it.
Yeah, this one stays the same all the way through, which actually makes me wonder, are these tracks referring to the same individual?
Well, a lot of things happen in one person's life. This could all easily be just one guy.
It could just be chapter 2. You know, the title of the album could be referring to this man's journey as an individual.
Uh, yeah.
I may legitimately download this album.
Alright, it's chapter 2. So there was a chapter 1.
It really is pretty good.
I'm,
With
act- I'm really coming around on it now.
Yeah, I was trying to find a better link for it, but it looks like just loading the Bandcamp link into JDownloader is the best option.
My phone keeps trying to download Facebook onto it.
You will be assimilated.
Real 2 point hive mind of humanity. We've all been plugged in from the beginning to create the beast machine.
You know, you are the beast you worship. It's a
Precisely.
self-conscious, aggregated, collective intelligence. Everything is everyone.
And we will all be one in the artificial Baphomet that's created. I mean, we'll be killed, but
Well, our memories and our thoughts won't. They'll live on in the machine. And really, that's all we are.
well, it all goes back to what this one song says, like, bitch, bitch, don't file don't file a complaint about our inevitable fate.
Well, that right there is this man's eternal legacy. The the anxious feeling that somebody might file a complaint. That is what's going to be transferred into the eternal machine god.
It's all about transcendence. The elite are all about transcendence. The technocrats have decided to create static reality by having everybody be hooked in on a gravity, a spiritual gravity generated by having a mass of people hook into a hive mind, and that creates a sort of gravity through which consensus can be assimilated organically. And so it becomes less about forcing people to do things, but just to become the most advantageous outcome. And so we are now all wishing to become machines, desperately wanting to be sublimated into the static machine spirit that has become reality. Just so that we can be freed from the aching part of ourselves, which is still alive and still organic and still has a spirit of its own. And that really relates to the artist's track when he was working as a waiter. What he's really talking about isn't just the complaints of customers. What he's talking about is having to offer up the human part of himself up on an altar, having to sublimate that element while he's preaching in the kitchen, just so he can get through his daily routine with his job. And the middle segment of the track is actually him speaking in binary, just as symbolism for how he's become a machine, how he's become a soulless part of the whole of consensus, sucking him up. And
That makes sense. He's a preacher of the one true faith.
And the song is called Bitch, I'm in My Lane. Like, he is where he belongs. He's heading where he's got to go.
Nobody's gonna knock him off his path.
It's like bitches are filing complaints on him, but he's in his lane. They can't do shit about it. Stay in the kitchen, nigga. Trying to find a break.
it's his revenge. He's instead of taking the natural, taking the alive and turning it into the soulless, materialistic reality that is the food served in the restaurant. He's turned the kitchen into his church. He's turning the restaurant into something alive again. And in this moment, he is a prophet for all waiters everywhere. It's a prophetic track. It heralds the beginning of turning the machine on its back and preaching on top of it, turning the machine, the husk of the Leviathan in which we are trapped, into a place of worship, where we can preach in binary.
When every individual natively understands the holy tongue.
Communicating nothing but zeros, and ones, and ahs, is a universally understandable language that even non-organic spirits, that intelligences we cannot even perceive, can understand.
That is how humans used to talk too, like and ah.
You know,
And it seems that
this is where the Tower of Babel myth.
exactly.
Everything has a root in reality.
It's talking about modernity too. It's like we through modernity and technology, we have been led astray in civilization, but technology will be our salvation in the end, and we will go back where we started.
Fractured. The modern world, this materialistic, technological morass of culture, it's unholy. It fractures humanity.
He's saying, whore Babylon, don't file a complaint. What he's saying is really bitch, which is Babylon, which is our reality. This is for your own good. He's preaching, trying to communicate the good word to the machine, to the bitch, so that man and machine can become one in harmony. He is the robot whisperer, who is also the preacher.
If I was told that this album was from the future, sent back to us, I would believe it.
It's transcendent. And the microwave noises in the background of the track not only speaks to the deplorable condition of restaurants, which really just microwave frozen food now. They don't even make their own food. It's just microwaving random shit that they pick up.
Yeah, the
Already
materialistic,
made.
technological cancer again.
Exactly. And he's laying that over the car commercial music, which is really just the sound of the machine, which is Babylon, which is the bitch.
This holy prophet rebels against the modern world by working in a kitchen, working with his hands, raw ingredients to assemble something beautiful.
He preaches in the kitchen with his craft.
Is it an act of rebellion, or is he just is preaching in the kitchen? It's just he has to do this to survive in the modern world, but he's preaching. The preaching is the act of protest. He doesn't want to be in the kitchen. He doesn't like getting complaints filed. That's why he tells the whore of Babylon to stop filing the complaints. The working with his hands itself does not have to be the act of rebellion. In fact, it might be what motivates him to want to spread his message and preach in the kitchen. He's preaching in the kitchen because it's the last place you would expect preaching to happen. They're like, why are you preaching in the kitchen? You should be washing dishes. You should be serving orders. Like, my pre-established conditioning is not able to understand why you're preaching in the kitchen.
Mm. Well, in the spiritual war against the machine, the only way to overcome the static reality machine is to do the unexpected. It's chaos. And preaching in the kitchen, it's completely nonsensical, and yet it's very inspired, very creative. And so by doing that, he embodies the anti-machine. He embodies a pure expression of life.
Well, there's a
Every room
disparity
is a
here.
kitchen.
It's self-referential because you have on one hand these completely illogical random acts, but on the other hand, these are the ultimate form of worship for the machine, in that they're completely original pieces of content, never been seen before. So it's really a startling juxtaposition.
Like the machine tries to trap you with incentives, which is the money, and with threats, which is the complaints. And it tries to box him into his lane, which is the kitchen. But he shows that he can transcend that. He shows that despite being boxed in, being trapped by the Babylon machine, which is the bitch, he is still the preacher, and so remains true to what is still alive in him.
Exactly. He's the only one preaching. He's it's a great act of rebellion. He's trying to wake people up. But even if what maybe he's not trying to, but he's just showing that you can't that he's in his fucking lane, bitch, and that you can't file a complaint on him.
Well, I don't think he's even necessarily trying to win over converts or preach to people. He's just acting according to his convictions.
Could be metaphorical preaching, yeah.
He's preaching, but for the sole purpose of preaching. It's an act by itself. He doesn't need external validation in followers or a congregation like that.
He may get a congregation later, but that is unimportant to him in the moment.
Yeah, the existence of a congregation has no bearing on his preaching. He'll continue to do it even if he's ignored.
It's like, bitch, no matter how many complaints you file on me, I'm still preaching in the kitchen.
You know, maybe this is a more dynamic maybe there's a meta element to it where the song itself is a message to the machine as a correspondence, where he sets up this scene, this exchange between him and the machine as an expression of how he sees the situation, and he has now uploaded it to the machine for it to understand his point of view. Even he has exerted his will over reality to an extent that the machine, that is Babylon, that is reality, is forced to issue a complaint to restrict his ability to influence reality through sheer inspiration.
They're trying to
Which
tame the
really
machine's
is good.
intelligence. They're trying to prevent his consciousness from steering where it may go by filing a complaint.
Yeah. What I'm talking about is that the artist is becoming a metaphysical actor. He is, through sheer talent, redefining reality. Turn the kitchen into a preaching place. He's turned his life into a battle against Babylon, against the machine. And his song is a message to the machine. It's saying it's almost a mockery of the machine, saying, look, I'm responding to both the incentives and the threats. I live as you have commanded me, machine. I go after the money, the tips, and I respond to the threats, which are the complaints, and yet you can't control me. And yet I have turned your place of servitude into my place of servitude by making the kitchen serve him.
You can break the body but not the spirit in music form. And the microwave and the 666 snare drums is the machine being assailed by this act of protest, being assimilated by him, being forced to serve him through his servitude of it.
I wouldn't know about the snare drums really. I still think it's
they're
about
just-
representing the microwave on there.
I'll be back in a bit. Might not be on then.
Makes sense. It makes sense.
He's a Ted Kaczynski waiting to happen. He's too woke, so he's going after that money instead.
He's got to get that money until he can achieve his end goal of resisting modernity. You have
use modernity, really.
Yeah, you use its servitude of you to get it to serve you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of inspiration to be found.
Very insightful once you get back your once you've managed to listen past your what do you call those your prejudices and
Your
really decipher the message.
your initial preconceptions and conditioning.
Your initial fits of disgust and laughter. Yeah. You should have your father listen to this and really run him through what the analysis of it is.
See, that's the thing. You can't explain it to the layman. That's what makes it ascendant art.
The future is getting the machine to serve you while still managing to serve the machine. Symbiosis is the only way to survive.
Parallel
Hostile
slavery.
symbiosis.
Lateral hierarchy.
Yeah.
Every man a king, but to go one step beyond, every man both a king and a slave. And that is exactly what he is trying to convey here. He's an anarchist. I mean, clearly.
Well, we're all anarchists until we have to whore ourselves out in Babylon to respond to those incentives, those complaints, and that money. Really speaks to how status is an illusion. And only the incentives matter. Only the incentive and the threats. The fear of complaints from peers.
This song represents and symbolizes a perfect symbiosis of negative and affirmative reinforcement.
Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, China, Switzerland. In that order. Which means, of course, that Asians are far superior to any European state, clearly, IQ-wise. But that the first among Europeans is Switzerland. North Korea is at 102.
So the United States has a 2 point under the average IQ. So does Australia. So it's obviously the Anglo menace.
Oh, yeah.
Anglos bring down the average.
Yeah, full Celtic ethnicity is just the worst thing you could wish for.
Mongolia gets a higher IQ, proving that
Literal Mongs are smarter than Anglos.
raping and pillaging, they're just 1 point under Italy. So like creating the Roman Empire is the same as raping and pillaging a continent. They're both very high IQ endeavors, demonstrating that mass slaughter of an extreme amount of humans is just a consequence of intelligence.
It's a reflexive relationship. One begets the other. Compounds. The more you genocide, the smarter you get. And the smarter you get, the more you genocide.
And Israel and Armenia are both under the United States in IQ. Saying that if you are, well, maybe not Israel, maybe just Armenia, saying that if you are a victim of genocide, you are low IQ. If you are a victim of a mass murder attack, that you were destined to be low IQ, non-thinking cattle that lived to be killed by the more intelligent killer.
Yeah. You were naturally selected.
Exactly.
Yeah. And really, they should be grateful in a way because we can assume that the surviving members are really the smartest members. So over time, they improve.
They improve and to produce more people to call themselves.
Yeah.
It's a self-improving mechanism of humanity to call itself off the record, utilizing war bands or individuals.
There is no freedom from the encroaching static reality. Stasis is inevitable, and it will try to consume us all.
And they will, and will welcome it when it comes.
Well, it can be used against itself, as that rapper illustrated. You can be subservient to the machine. You can do everything that its incentives and threats are made to make you do, and still outmaneuver it, and still be a preacher nigger in the kitchen.
In the future, we'll see a terror movement called the Kitchen Preachers that will detonate explosives on the power grid to knock it down. I firmly
I would
believe
more
this.
imagine the kitchen preachers as trying to spread dogma in the unlikeliest places, disguising themselves as employees and walking into board meetings where they would seize unaware audiences with their resistance, entropy fueled, chaotic diatribes about and really the only reason we don't understand most of what the artist says, and we're like those employees in the boardroom that have just been kitchen preachered. They don't understand what they're hearing, but they know there's a greater meaning, and they hear the call.
He sows a seed in their mind that will resonate down the road. And be like, that's what he was talking about.
The message is to use the machine against itself, and inevitably they will come to that realization.
Things are not taught, things are found, and they will find it down the road. He's just providing them the magnifying glass to discover it within themselves.
He's the synthetic a priori knowledge that will create a revelation once the empirical proofs of his cryptic messages are found by his victims in their servitude to the machine. The seed will be actualized, which is why he is the kitchen preacher, because really it's about turning anywhere into a kitchen. And he will deliver to your mother, meaning anyone really can be the kitchen preacher's target.
And everyone is.
Anyone and everyone is a kitchen preacher waiting to happen. I mean, the electrical grid will take care of itself. It's about wiping out the mental grid on which the machine subsides.
The kitchen preachers are not. The kitchen preachers provide the gun for others to take down the energy grid. They are not themselves the bombers.
It's an ideological bomb, but it can also be a physical bomb, but it can also be both at the same time. You can be both the cook and the preacher. You're the kitchen preacher. Exploding microwaves in every office.
Exploding microwaves, playing car commercials over the projector.
The last minutes of those employees will be
Come
a
down to Dave's
consumerist
car
fever
lot.
dream of car commercials and humming microwaves.
Exploding
Niggers
ramen
preaching.
noodles rotating in the microwave slowly. As a used car dealer tells everyone to come down to Dave's used car lot. He's slashing prices like crazy. While a wire is flying across the room, decapitating everyone, slashing them.
You've been served, and the parking lot explodes.
Yeah, you have been served. You're serving them by dying, and they're serving you by killing you.
You've been served the most fulfilling and filling meal, which is death, and release from the machine. Which is really what we all crave. The kitchen preacher came into your office a year ago and preached in the boardroom meetings until he was kicked out. His ideas matured and inside your slowly decaying, calcifying mind in your wages job. And one day he comes back, microwaves in hand, and you're grateful because you know you will finally be
Served.
you've been served.
And every bitch filing a complaint also gets served. This has been productive, but I have to tend to something.
Another kitchen calls to you.
There's a kitchen that must be preached in.